Hey there, it's Will Wang and welcome back to another episode of the Marketing from the Trenches podcast. So in today's episode, I've got something really exciting that I wanted to go through with you, and I think you'll really like this one as well. And today's episode is a case study or a walkthrough of a 7-figure campaign. So this was a campaign that we put together for a client of ours, and it went on to generate 7 figures in revenue from one single deal. And there's a lot of different deals coming through in the pipeline as well that are almost as big as one that we've actually landed and closed. So I think we get a lot of value from this one. I'm really excited to share step by step how we executed the campaign and what it looked like. So before we begin and dive into the content, I just wanted to also mention that we've got a new section of our website that's just been built, and it's a free resources section where you can go and download some of the resources we use to help ourselves and our clients execute these kind of campaigns. So we've got a B2B lead generation checklist and a couple other cool resources which I think you'll really like as well. And it's completely free, so go ahead and go to growthlabs.com, and labs is spelled with a Z, so it's growth, labz.com/resources. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode. I'm going to jump straight in and walk through step by step exactly how we got this campaign done. Now, one last quick note, actually, before I jump in, is this is another whiteboard session, but as the last one that I did, I'm going to talk through exactly what we did. So even if you're on audio, on iTunes, whatever it is, don't worry, I'll explain everything as we go and I won't leave you guys out. But if you're on video, or if you can get to a laptop or a computer or a tablet, something like that, and you're watching this on video, you'll get a whiteboard and you'll see me actually talking through or showing you the different steps written out. So whichever one that's cool, let's get right into the meat of it. Okay, let's jump straight in because I'm super excited to share this campaign and this case study with you guys. Now, this one is a 7-figure campaign. I wanted to give you a little bit of context of who the client is and who the clients were, or their clients rather, before we dive into the campaign itself. So I can't say too much about who they are or identify them because I've signed an NDA and a confidentiality agreement, but let's just say that they're a big professional services company in marketing services, kind of like PR sort of stuff. Can't say too much more besides that. And they were going after listed companies, so Fortune 500 companies, that they could go in and work with the right person in those companies and help their internal teams out and come in as an external supplier. So this was really, really cool for us because the deal sizes that we're working on are such big deals that that one deal kind of made everything that we were doing for the whole year worth it, and it came through fairly quickly too. So let me take you through exactly what we did, the preparation, some of the steps that we took to get them into the market, and what it took to move them from not knowing who my clients were through to having a conversation with them, through to going through the proposal and tender process, and then ultimately landing and winning the deal itself. So step by step, let's go. So the number one thing that we looked at, or we planned really, really well, and this is something that a lot of people skip through way too quickly, but we did a lot of planning around their campaign, right? So we looked at the target market we should be going after. We looked at what the biggest problems or the biggest issues this target market had. We looked at the people within the companies we wanted to target and who were the ideal people to speak to who could both say yes to what we were doing and also say yes to the budget or the purchasing process. So that's what we planned. We looked at the KPIs, the struggles and the frustrations that the person within that company would be facing every single day, and then understood how our service can really help that person and make it a bit of a win-win situation for everybody involved. So that took a lot of planning, and honestly, even though I'm not going to talk too much about this, this was the biggest and most important part of the process. So, I'm a big believer in planning. If you watched the episode I did before around why marketing campaigns fail, one of the biggest reasons is that there's no proper planning that goes into it. So you must make sure that you've got your target market plus planning done correctly before you even think about going to market and executing. So that was the very first step. Planning workshops, target market workshops, understanding the customers, and making sure we've got that part right. So as you can see here, from step 1, we go into step number 2, which I've got written down here. It's, hopefully I've spelled that right, is angle plus value offers. Now, what do I mean by angle and value offers? Well, essentially it means we're listing out exactly how our product or our service can help the people we're going after. Now, I know this kind of sounds similar to part 1, but it's kind of an extension of that, right? Because in part 1, we understand or we list out what the pains or the frustrations of the people we're helping are. This next step, which is the angles, is we're looking at how our service can actually help them. So what is it that we do, or the step-by-step process? Oh, as the lights turn off in my office here, recording at night. So the second step is we look at step by step exactly what happens, or exactly how our service can take them through where they are now through to where they want to be. So it's a deeper level of planning, it's a deeper level of thinking behind that. And this is where a lot of the copywriting, a lot of the psychology really comes into play at this step here. So that was number 2, angles and value offers. The third is social proof. So this is a major step. We were going after corporate clients, so Fortune 500s, listed companies, so huge companies. Now, if you did the planning properly, as we kind of did with this situation, we understood that the people we were going after, they weren't risking the budget because it wasn't their own money they were pulling out of their pockets, but they were risking their jobs if they picked the wrong supplier, right? So trust and the relationship and the ability or the security of doing what they say they will do was a major factor in how we wanted to approach the market. So we needed to come up with a couple of angles and value offers, or social proof rather, to show them that, hey, this isn't the first rodeo we've been to. We've worked with companies of a similar size. We've worked with similar people in a similar industry to the one that their leads were in, and that we could actually get the job done and produce some really cool results. So social proof was very powerful, and what that did was it kind of elevated them. So I'm drawing a picture of a whole bunch of circles in a row and an arrow going up and a star above all the circles. So the social proof allowed us to elevate the clients, my clients, above the rest of the market who are probably chasing after the same deals and the same proposals, and the social proof element really allowed them to anchor to a solid result, a solid guarantee, and build the authority and the trust much faster than if it didn't have that. So that was a key element, number 3 being social proof. Now, number 4 is after we had that done, and I want to focus a lot of my attention on this because, the fourth step is where I can really go into it and explain step by step what we did. Whereas the first 3, I'm a little bit bound by an NDA, so I can't go too much into it. But the fourth bit here was execution. So let me explain how this kind of worked, right? And I'll take you through the thinking process behind it and also how it actually got executed. So under number 4, there's 3 different arrows. The first one being cold email, the second being direct mail, and the third one being a phone call. So generally, I'm sure you understand what that kind of means, is we open the conversation to their market with a cold email, and we follow it up with a direct mail piece, and then try to get appointment setters to lock in sales meetings and sales phone calls as the last piece of that. But let me go a little bit deeper, if that's all right, and kind of break through and break down how these pieces work and how they work together, most importantly. So the first one is cold email. Now, we had a sequence of, I think it was 7 cold emails in that one sequence that went out to the target market. Now, the emails were written with a variety of different angles. We had a lot of psychology behind them, and there's a certain way of writing cold emails that you wouldn't really apply to even advertising or advertising on Facebook ads or warm emails. So there's a different psychology, there's a different speed to them, there's a different way of setting them up. And what you need to do is have a sequence so that it might be somewhere in the sequence, might be the 3rd, the 4th, or even the 7th email, but you want the prospects or the people you're going after to at least open one of them. So that's what we did. There's a lot of persuasion, psychology, and just copywriting that goes into it, but we had 7x emails. So I'm just writing this on the whiteboard, 7x emails, and what we did was we tracked the open rates of each email. So open rates being an extra point I'm adding on here. We tracked the reply rate of each individual email, and then we tracked unsubscribes and bounces. So this gives us a really good understanding of where the market was in terms of the message we were getting out there, what angles they responded to the best, what they didn't like, and just a lot of information about the market in a really quick way. So the reason why we chose to use cold emails was because we kind of already knew who the market was. We knew who they were in which companies. So it just made a lot more sense doing that rather than trying to advertise and beat around the bush and go around in circles. If you know who your market is, if you know how to get in front of them, just pick the most direct path you can and get in front of them. So that was a cold email piece here. So off the back of the cold emails, we could really easily track who was opening the emails. We obviously knew who was replying. And one of the angles that we had was, you might not want to jump on the phone with us now, but can we send you some information about the stuff we're talking about? So that worked really well. And everyone who requested that got sent a direct mail piece. So we took them off emails into something that's more physical, because if you can send someone a book you've written or some kind of documentation or something that's tangible, that builds authority and trust a lot more than something that's digital and can be easily discarded, right? It's kind of funny like that, but generally if some people can hold something in their hands, there's a lot more trust within that material object. So that's kind of why we moved on to direct mail, and there's a whole different piece around that, which again, I'll do another episode covering how to use it effectively. But we sent books that were written by my clients, we sent postcards, we sent bigger case studies, and a whole bunch of other things to kind of start building that relationship, start building the trust, the authority, and getting used to, or getting the market used to seeing our names and just kind of reinforcing the brand and the name and the message over and over again. So we also had a follow-up email sequence from the cold emails. So once they replied to cold email, they got the direct mail, and they also moved on to another sequence depending on what they replied, obviously. Now, from these two steps, obviously there's a certain percentage of people who would rather just go straight to phone call. And that's fantastic and great, right? Because they're the ones who are hungriest to buy now. If you're familiar with the concept of a market triangle, the top 3% of the market is ready to buy now and they're looking for a solution. The next 7% is problem aware, so they know they've got a problem. And so it's a lot easier to educate them on why you're the right solution. The next few percentage, and I'll go into this in a separate, more theory-based episode. The next one's kind of like, they don't really know they've got a problem, but they're open to being educated. And the next one is they're just not looking. So there's always a percentage of the market, which generally is about 3% to 10% if you write the emails correctly, who are really happy or, who are open to getting on a phone call and accelerating that sales process. We did the cold emails, did the direct mail. A portion of the people went straight to the phone. A portion of people said, send me more information, which meant we got direct mail and got the nurture sequence. And then of everyone who we looked at had opened the emails multiple times but hadn't replied yet, we either went to direct mail for the second time and sent something different, sent another nurture piece via direct mail, or we had appointment setters with a very specific script, call them to kind of warm them up and tread really softly, but have another contact point to kind of open up the conversation. So the three of these really work well together, and it's kind of exponentially powerful if you use all three together rather than just one strategy by itself. So execution was cold email, either yes or a no. No, that's fine. We'll leave them alone. We don't even send them the next piece. If it's a yes to a phone call, great, let's get on the phone. If there's yes to more information, we'll send them direct mail. And then the ones who hadn't said yes or no, but had opened the emails multiple times, we picked up the phone and called them. So the ones that, or the particular deal that they got through came through this exact process. So that one actually fell into line very, very quickly, and also very smoothly as well. So what happened was the lead that my clients were going after, they responded to the cold email, said, yes, please send us some more information. We put together a bit of a package for them in direct mail and sent it through. And then we followed up with a phone call, and their lead responded and said, hey, look, this stuff you sent us is actually awesome. Can you come in for a conversation or a sales meeting? And so that's the fifth step after this. So just to recap, if you're listening to this on audio, number 1 was targeting, number 2 was angle plus value offers, number 3 was social proof, number 4 was execution, and now on number 5, which is the sales process. Now, a lot of the time when marketing, gets a lead come through and the leads are like, yep, let's do it, they kind of hand it over to sales, and sales run their process behind it. But with this client, what we really wanted to do was bring the two teams together, because marketing's got so much data behind it, and marketing knows what was sent and what the conversations were like initially. So it made it a lot of sense to bring sales in to reinforce marketing and handle the account together, being such a large account. So we crafted a sales process for them that kind of nurtured, but also try to accelerate the sales as quickly as possible. So obviously this is an enterprise account, an enterprise sale, and there's a lot of different people who have to come in, assess the product, assess the service, sign off on it. Procurement's got to look at it, the finance office has to look at it, a lot of different factors. So we put together a sales process that identified each different stakeholder within that business who had to give approvals or who would touch the process, and then worked out the angles for each of those people, and kind of made the whole sales process a lot smoother. So again, kind of outside the scope of this episode here, but as soon as we got the lead, they were happy to have a chat to us, and they were the key user, we engaged them and the rest of the stakeholders in that sales process to drive the sale through. So ultimately what happened was, it's a 5-step process. Obviously step 4 execution is there's a little bit more in that, but essentially a 5-step process to landing a 7-figure deal. So I hope that made sense. I hope that was of value to you. If you're looking to go after corporate or enterprise clients, or even if you're looking for B2B and SME clients, and you want to have a chat about it, we'd love to show you or share some ideas that might be able to help you get more leads, get more sales, and get more clients. Now, if you want some help from us, or if you just want to have a chat with me about if what you're doing is right, please feel free to reach out to us. We're at info@growthlabs.com. It's growth and then LABZ.com, and send me an email around how we can help, and we can take it from there. Now, there's a lot of other episodes coming up where I do go into each of these different points and do a deep dive of how we actually got everything set up. So please do keep an eye out on other episodes coming out. If you liked what we just went through, or if you got a lot of value out of it, please do like and subscribe, and whatever platform you're catching this on, go and subscribe. Leave me a good rating if you liked it. Give me a review. Let me know what I can do to make this even more valuable for you. And as always, I will see you on the next episode.